Sure thing.
Yes.
Yes.
I heard one yes.
Yes.
One yes, I hear another yes. Okay,
Yes.
there's a motion and a second. And all in favor, we're going to go ahead and get started. We have about 20 minutes for Q&A. My name is Ken Trevino. I'm the CEO of Workforce Solutions, and I was invited to participate today in this process, which I think has been a great process that the City of Corpus Christi has put together. And I've gotten a little bit of time to spend with Peter, so I think what we would want to do best first is for him to introduce his beautiful family, and also queue up a first question for you, and then we'll take questions from the audience that y'all have written down on the cards. I was asked to say that tonight's not about a vote from the community. Tonight's about to get feedback from the community, from each of you. Provide that feedback to the current city staff or to me, or however you'd like to do that on the note cards, and to ask questions. And I'll try to compile the questions. We might get a lot of the same type of questions. And in about 20 minutes or so, we'll rotate to another room, and we'll bring some other folks here to visit with Mr. Zanoni. So with that, would you like to please introduce your family? And
Yes, thank you, Ken. Ken's been my expediter for this process, so thank you, Ken. You've done a great job. I'm fortunate to have my family with me today. We snuck them out of school to be down here with us today. My wife is here, of course, Luana, and our 3 boys. We're going to change things up a little bit on age, but Tanner, the middle guy, is the oldest. And then we have Anello. Actually, you guys can introduce yourself.
I'm Anello, and I'm the middle.
Tanner, the oldest.
I'm Nicola, I'm the youngest.
I'm Luana, I'm the oldest.
CEO.
So that's the family. They each have their strengths. I don't know what weaknesses other than not listening to us, but they love sports and they love education. We hope to get Tanner down here to Texas A&M and Corpus Christi. We've had property in Sinton for over 13 years, or for about 13 years. And these guys are grown up on the coast. The only thing we can get them to do together without fighting with each other is fishing. And so we spend many days fishing up here at Rockport and down here at Corpus Christi. And we know about Texas A&M and Corpus Christi through those days. And we hope to get Tanner here soon. And then Anello, who loves basketball, has found out that they're a Division I school. And so he's on board too to be an Islander in Stoltz. So. And Nikolai's highly competitive and tries to keep up with his 2 older brothers. So we'll see what he does when he gets to that age. But I don't know if you have any questions or want to talk to them. But, we're glad they're here tonight.
Well, we appreciate you joining Peter on this trip. Welcome to Corpus Christi. We know you visit quite often. We're so glad to have you in our community. We hope you enjoyed the hospitality of the community. Thank you very much. And with that, unless you would like to, you're welcome to say something if you'd like, Alana.
Well, I'll let them say a couple of things about themselves, and we'll start with our oldest, Tanner.
Well, I'm a freshman in college. I currently go to a little community college called San Antonio College. I'm there to get my basics done out of the way, and then I will transfer here and to hopefully get my major in marine biology, maybe a master's in wildlife biology.
I'm Anello, I'm a 10th grader in high school, and my passions are basketball and music, and I'm looking to come here to play basketball and pursue music.
I'm Nikolai, I'm a 5th grader at Woodbridge Elementary. I play lacrosse, football, and basketball. I also play viola and a little bit of piano, and I just made it into my 6th grade concert.
That's right. Time for applause. Thank you very much. Peter, if I could, I'll cue you up with, I think what would be the logical first question is, Corpus Christi, talk a little bit about your current position in San Antonio and why you would want to be city manager of the city of Corpus Christi and where you see our community right now and its process of growing and such.
Okay. So San Antonio is, or I should say Corpus Christi is very similar to San Antonio in many ways, and population, and some of the issues we face. And currently I'm serving as a deputy city manager, which is a second in command position in San Antonio. And I've been working with a great management team led by Sheryl, who just retired, for the past 13 years. And I've been a total of 22 years in San Antonio. But what that has been doing is preparing me for the ultimate job in this profession, which is to be a city manager. And as we know, San Antonio is a large city, 1.5 million people, and we've dealt with a lot of issues over time, and the very similar issues that are here in Corpus Christi. And so the ability to come down here to this great city and take the talents that I've learned to help this community is one of the reasons why I want to be your all's next city manager. We're dealing with many of the same things you're dealing with today, we have dealt with over the past 13 years especially. Building a strong management team in the city organization, working with your elected leaders, the mayor, the city council, is a critical first step in making some big progress there in Corpus Christi. I've heard from the community and from the council members the issue about streets. Do y'all think you have a streets problem here? A few of us. So we've had similar problems in San Antonio. We've turned things around. We're spending quite a bit of money. It's $110 million this year. It's probably more than we would spend here, but we have a system in place now and strategy on how to maintain our streets and improve them. We have strong public safety. We have a strong and well financially managed city. We were trained by Sheryl Sculley, who her biggest thing was to be the best financially managed city in the country. And I felt that was kind of odd. I thought being in city government, you want customer service or city services or parks to be the most important. But over time, I saw that's why that was one of the most important things. Is if you have a good financial structure and stability, you can do just about anything. And we were one of the highest credit rated, or the highest city in our credit rating in the country of all large cities. We're the highest in the country. And we can certainly do that here in Corpus Christi. There's a lot of talent here. This city is beautiful, and there's a lot of talent in place, but I think it needs the right spark to get us to the next level. Other things we've dealt with includes our park system, our development services areas. I've heard those are some of the issues here. Affordable housing is slowly becoming a problem in many Texas cities, right? We're dealing with that. I was one of the lead persons working with the mayor and the city council this last year, working with a blue ribbon task force to create an affordable housing plan. And we probably need to do that here in Corpus Christi, especially with a large number of blue-collar workers, right? Maybe a bigger picture story is if we want people to stay here. I've heard a lot in San Antonio from folks that used to live here. Some of them are in their 30s and 40s, and they said, I grew up in Corpus Christi, but I left, and we're up in San Antonio. And that shouldn't happen. It's a beautiful place to stay, to raise your family. So creating opportunity, starting at community level, and having people want to stay here and make Corpus Christi their home would be a great thing to do as well, city manager. In San Antonio, we can do it here. I think some of the city leaders are doing that today, starting with the youth. Having many opportunities, such as maybe a youth commission. We have an ambassador program in San Antonio where children that go to college, when we bring them back off in between semesters, we pay them a stipend or give them money, and we partner them up with a business. And then so when they go back to college, they get to talk about the great city of San Antonio, and they're more likely to return to that city. And so we can do something like that as well here in Corpus Christi.
Peter, I think that's a really good transition to one of the questions that we have here about attracting young business professionals to our community. And are there any strategies that you utilized with the team in San Antonio to attract and retain young business professionals?
Right, yeah, so we do. We just speak about the city itself. When I first started there, we can do the same thing here. We were known as the organization where you went to get a job because you couldn't get one anywhere else. And that was kind of a fact of San Antonio. But over time, we tried to change the culture of the organization to be what we call the employer of choice. We wanted young people especially to say, I have a choice. I can work at these 3 places or the city, and my top choice is to work at the city of San Antonio. And that actually took place and is still taking place today. We can do the same thing here. It happens from having competitive wages, from having competitive benefits to families, making it a high-performing organization to work in, and making sure that the person contributing can see their success that they're giving to the organization.
Thank you. One of the other things that you touched on was infrastructure, and you've obviously done your homework about our community. You've been this far in the process. Could you talk a little bit about those strategies that San Antonio's employed that you would be able to work on here? Specifically, any work we've done around industrial districts, developing agreements between industrial districts or zones that would be beneficial to attracting companies.
Okay. So infrastructure has been one of my main areas of oversight as deputy city manager. And we have done, prior to about 13 years ago, we used to do $100 million bond programs. And they were done every 5-6 years. And projects sometimes never even got done when they were supposed to have gotten them. Since that time, with myself being part of the leadership team there, we have done $2 billion over the last 15 years or so. Last 10 years, actually, the next couple of years we'll finish that off. But in our last 3 bond programs, $2 billion versus the last decade of only $100 million every 5 or 6 years or so. That comes from having strong financial management, having a strong team in the city to execute on bond programs, deliver them on time, on budget, and with high quality. Working with the private sector, the city of San Antonio, a lot of the execution of the bond program, the actual construction, is done by the private sector. So having good working relationships with the private sector is critical. That takes care of big projects like taking a 2-lane road and making it a 4-lane road with a center turn lane, or adding significant amenities to some of our park systems, building senior centers and new libraries. What we do on our neighborhood streets, where many of us live, is done through our annual budget. And in that area, we've re-engineered how we do the streets. In the past, the city crews that didn't really have the best technology, capability, or equipment were doing the toughest streets. And the private sector, who had the capability, were doing the easiest projects. And so we reversed that. We have the city crews doing things they can do comfortably with the equipment they have, but we have the private sector now doing the tougher streets. We also have a 5-year rolling plan, so everybody knows when your street's going to get done. It's not based on who's in office today as a council member, where things could change if the new council member is elected. There's a definite plan that only the city council can change if they want to substitute on a street project or a sidewalk project. So a resident knows my street's been pretty bad, I've been waiting for a sidewalk for 30 years, but I know that next year I'm next up, and that can't be changed unless there's a vote of the council. And so that provides a lot of predictability, and we're able to execute. The team that's in place, and the city staff that's executing the projects as well is fully competent, and we do a lot of performance management to make sure that if we said this many road projects will get done, they're getting done at this point in time. So it's not a matter of just saying, here's your $110 million, come back next year, we'll see how you're doing. At my level, and the levels below, like the assistant city managers or department head, we're making sure performance is being managed to completion. I have had some experience working in industrial type districts, working with developers and public improvement districts or tax increment zones. It's probably some of the experience I have that's relative to a heavy industrial district. Most recently I worked with HEB. You guys know HEB, right? They just acquired 800 acres of property to build a big new distribution center and a production plant where they make bread, potato chips, and that type of thing. And so I worked directly with some of the lead executives at HEB and the team that they had in place to annex that property. We're also building a road today so that it will be improved to lead into and out of the plant in time for their opening. So we're really managing that to stay on time. And it's, with any outside entities, about having good communication with them, understanding their needs, and making sure we can deliver. Because things are easy to fall by the wayside. What that plant's going to do, just as one example, is it will keep those jobs in San Antonio, but it's also going to grow a significant number of jobs, pretty decent paying jobs. HEB has a great leadership, succession plan, and benefits package as well. So we keep a good company in town because they had talked about potentially going just up the road a little bit. So those are some of them.
So an education-based question, and doing my research, I saw that one of the bond election that was passed was about prepay.
Right.
And if you could talk a little bit about connecting those dots to that end game jobs that you're talking about from developing a bond program for pre-K, how did you get support around voter participation for that and connecting those dots between early childhood development and jobs?
Right. I was looking for some little kids in the room, but I don't see any, but except for these guys. One of the things that the business community discovered in San Antonio as we began to grow and have more businesses come in was that, such as Toyota, is that hiring people that are ready to do the work that needs to be done was a tough thing to do. The workforce just wasn't there. In some cases, they could fill, internal positions, but higher technically skilled positions, they couldn't fill. In the case of a cloud-based company, Rackspace, I don't know if you've heard of them, they actually still today have to bus down from Austin, Texas, a certain number of employees every day, and then they bus them back, I guess, at their expense up to Austin. And so the business community said, we have to change this. We need to have a talent pool in our city. We need to be growing that talent pool. And the mayor at the time, Mayor Castro, recognized this as well, and also recognized some challenges in the public school system. And so what we had in San Antonio was a 1/8 cent sales tax capacity available. We wanted the maximum amount of sales tax being charged to the public when they buy something. And the mayor asked a Blue Ribbon Commission, what could I do with this? It would be $30 million, $35 million or so with 1/8 cent sales tax. What can we do with that money to best improve education and ultimately the workforce? And what this Blue Ribbon Task Force was chaired by Charles Budd, the chairman right of HEB, Joe Robles from USAA, several education leaders as well. What they told the mayor was that educating 4-year-olds, investing in pre-K at age 4, is the best return on investment. And it's the best way to make sure that child is going to be ready for the 21st century workforce. And many studies have proved this. The Blue Ribbon Task Force, and even myself, went around the country to see some of these pre-K programs. And so what the city did is that the mayor and the city council said, okay, we're going to go forward with this. Let's put this 1/8 cent sales tax in a pre-K program. They put it on the ballot, the voters approved it. Then at that point, they turned it over to us, the city staff. Actually, it was some months before that, but they turned it over to us to develop the program and execute it. And that's what we did. So we have a highly functioning, we're in our 6th year of investing. Now it's close to $40 million in that 1/8 cent sales tax. Educating 4-year-olds, we have 4 centers of education where we have 500 4-year-olds that go to school every day. There are the San Antonio teachers, but we're in partnership with the school districts. We could have become a charter school, but we didn't want to do that. We wanted to partner with the existing independent school districts. There's about 15 in San Antonio, but we have a direct partnership or an MOU with 8 of them. And so the parent registers the child at the school district, and then we take the child and educate them for that year at pre-K 4. The program, though, expands beyond that. It's really about rising the tide in San Antonio on the concept of education and having the child ready for kindergarten. When we were getting ready for the program, just one story is that some of the principals would tell me that when a student come into kindergarten in San Antonio, didn't even know how to hold a book, to read it, but not just to read it, but they didn't know what was the right side of the book. So what pre-K has done is it's raised the conversation on early childhood education being ready for kindergarten. And we can see that over the 6 years, the test results of children in kindergarten and now all the way to grade 3, because that first cohort is in grade 3, is significantly improved, not just in our program, but also in the public school systems. And so the program is working, and that's working, and that is getting children at a higher level, and it's getting the community talking about getting this 21st century workforce more ready. So that's our pre-K program.
Thank you. Leah just came in and said about 10 more minutes, so if I could, I'm going to lightning round. Ian, I would suggest if you got a question, jot it down. So we have some questions here. Or, there you go. You're already off script, man. Stay on script.
I'm always on
Peter,
script.
what I like to do is there's some topics here that are unrelated, except that they're related to how community grows and they're serving populations. So I'm going to fire off some questions and, they're not necessarily connected, but these are questions that our community wants answering. So one of them is a population on homelessness. And so San Antonio, your experience around that issue, what the city does, and what our community can do to take steps to reduce that issue.
Right, so the city of San Antonio opened now it's a nationally recognized homelessness shelter called Haven for Hope. And 9 years ago, when that first opened, I was an assistant city manager, and that happened to be one of my areas of oversight. And what that project did, even though we invested $50 million in a campus, is it brought together, more than that, it brought together all the agencies that provide services to homelessness under one roof. And made the agencies more efficient and made the angles of how you address homelessness more focused. And that project is working well. We still have some homelessness with the folks that don't want treatment, maybe need more mental assistance than what can be given. It's still out there, but it's drastically reduced. These big pockets and concentrations of homelessness that you see. In my visits around City Hall recently, I saw, what people told me would be there, a significant concentration of homelessness. And I think what it'll take here is similar to what we did in San Antonio, which is also based on national best practice research. It's really about bringing together the partner agencies that are doing this already today. Obviously, increased funding would help in anything, but I think if we have a more coordinated system, there's probably a lot of duplication, and there's probably a lot of things that are being done that in the person's or the nonprofit's best interest, they think that's the right thing to do. But in fact, we've learned in San Antonio that sometimes it's not the right thing to do. It actually increases homelessness, or it doesn't end that dependency on homelessness on the system. So,
Annexation question?
Annexation, we love annexation.
Before you do anything, you become city manager of the city of Corpus Christi, before you do anything, what would be your approach regarding annexation?
Well, if we could change the legislature, that would be one approach, but we can't do that. But you all are lucky right now. In San Antonio, the legislature put the hammer down to us the last session. And so we can't annex anything unless the voters approve it first. But I think annexation is a great tool to help your city grow and to make sure that those that are using the services are contributing in the tax base. So it's an important tool. We'll see what the legislature does. We'll see this time around. But, yeah.
Were you given the opportunity to do any financial reviews or?
Of the city?
Yes, and
No, yes,
if so,
yeah.
greatest challenges moving forward financially for our community?
Okay, well, if the legislature reduces that property tax ability here, I know we don't like paying property tax, but that could cause some issue in Corpus Christi. Unlike San Antonio, that receives 30% of our budget from our utility plant, we don't have that luxury here. So we need revenues to provide services, and we'll see what happens with the legislature. But I did look at the city's budget, having been starting my career in the budget office. I was in San Antonio's budget office for 10 years and budget director for 6. I was pretty impressed by the financial position of Corpus Christi. The budget department seems to have their act together, and the financial reports that are done annually didn't have any significant findings in what they call their management letter. So I think there's some good stability in those areas in Corpus Christi.
I'm not sure exactly what this means, but P3s with regard to the financial issues that the city may be, your thoughts?
Well, we've done several P3s in downtown San Antonio. What a P3 is a private and public partnership where each other helps to ultimately improve an area, maybe build a building or other type of asset improvement. We've done them in San Antonio in several ways. The legislature changed the rules of those processes a little bit. But there is another tool that Corpus Christi can use to have some growth in the downtown area or other targeted areas in Corpus Christi.
Another kind of quick fire round,
Okay.
the stray animal issue. Is there something you want to make a comment about?
Just don't tell my boys about them because they love it out.
What have you done to improve in San Antonio?
Yes, San Antonio, one of our bond programs built a modern animal care facility. But with anything, the facility is only one thing. So we developed a strategic plan working with the community and partner agencies to really reduce the euthanasia rate. They have a no-kill policy, and I won't explain what all that means, but we have been more aggressive in picking up stray animals in the neighborhoods. It's a safety issue. And we have, though, worked to be more humane about how we treat the dogs and cats and other animals that we get. So we have a pretty robust program there that we can do here as well. We rode by the animal care facility yesterday with the mayor and the council members. So I think you have a strong partner agency here that's interested in helping. And so maybe the city working more closely with that agency will have some results in Corpus Christi.
So you can see we have a very concerned citizenship here in Corpus Christi. We have a beautiful city. You got to tour it. I know you come down here and visit because you have property here also. But talk about, what would be your vision, or briefly, if you could. I know vision is a big statement, but talk about the beautification of our community. What would you see happening in terms of making Corpus Christi beautiful, more beautiful than it is?
Right.
Those type of improvements.
Okay, well, certainly we know that Ocean Drive is beautiful. My family and I, about one boy at a time, we used to just love to drive up and down Ocean Drive. And even today it's beautiful, seeing over the balcony from the hotel where we're staying at. It looks great. There could be some improvements though. Walking at night, as an example, the lighting is kind of dark. This may seem like a small thing, but in San Antonio, we looked at that at lighting in our downtown areas, pedestrian lighting in particular. Things like access across the street. By the Omni, it was tough to get across to Ocean Drive. There's really no good pedestrian access point. I sent one of the kids to go first, and I said, I'll meet you in the grass island. But those are some ways to improve the beauty, but also the access. And so having better pedestrian accessibility, taking some of this beauty that we see on the shore and bringing it into the neighborhoods, is something we can do. As we improve sidewalks and landscaping. Corpus Christi is a beautiful city. I don't think a lot of people know that outside of Corpus Christi. But making that beauty consistent to the city, to include even the welcoming as you approach Corpus Christi. There's no sign saying, I don't think, would be saying, welcome to the great city of Corpus Christi. Another thing we should be doing to highlight the beauty is advertising even up in San Antonio. I know I see a billboard on my way home from work many a night highlighting Rockport. I've never seen one from Corpus Christi. So things like that to showcase the beauty that we have here. There's a diversity of beauty, not just the ocean. Not too far from here, I know because my place is Sinton, there's beautiful prairie land and country, and I think that's something many people here at Corpus Christi will take advantage of.
Topic jump, strong management, City of San Antonio built a strong management team that accepted performance-based management.
Yes.
Describe that for the audience, if you will.
Okay. Do I have time?
I think we
Yeah, I can do that.
have a little bit of time. I appreciate all the questions that we received, first of all, but I can't read some of this writing. And I would suggest that you don't have to necessarily leave this room, and there's going to be an opportunity for you to still mix with Mr. Zanoni after this meeting prior to the next one. Go ahead.
Okay, so performance management, that's something we focus on a lot in San Antonio. You can have a great city manager, but if you don't have good leaders beneath you, it's going to be tough to get things done. So performance management is all about making sure the employees, from the directors to the frontline staff, know what they have to do and they're held accountable to deliver it. So it's having realistic and defined expectations. But then it's also about reviewing those, and that's one thing we do in San Antonio and we should be doing here. Every quarter, I have my performance reviewed by the city manager, and I review my subordinates' evaluation, their performance based on that work plan. Also in San Antonio, so we do that every quarter, and then at the end of the year, we do a total one. But any increase in pay now to include any COLA, cost of living adjustment, or performance pay is based on one's performance. It used to be you just got a 3% COLA, cost of living increase, no matter what you do. Right? But now at the executive level, if you don't perform, you don't make more money. You don't get an increase. And so that's a big part of performance management. Having highly qualified persons in the job to begin with is important. That goes back to that first question, the conversation we had about being an employer of choice. You want to have the right people in the right spots in the organization to begin with as part of performance management.
And I think that that's a good place to wrap this until that we're moving on to the next. There are about 3 or 4 questions that I didn't get to, but I'm going to be your facilitator for the next set of meetings, so I'm going to get to them then. Can we thank